15 Reasons Why the 4-Hour Workweek is a Lie. Since 2007, Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek, has been one of the big names in self-help and time management. When it was released, it was seen as an alternative approach to work-life balance and has been both lauded and loathed ever since. What is all this hype around the 4-hour workweek? Is it possible to amass a fortune and only work 16 hours a month? Or is the whole thing just a scam? We're about to unpack some of the mystery around the 4-hour workweek, so stick around to the end because the truth is a real doozy. But first, let's start with some of the facts. Number 1. 4 hours of work was never Tim Ferriss's point. The truth is that Tim Ferriss never set out to offer a plan to reduce your work life to just 4 hours a week after reading one book. Even the title was proving his point that research and Google ads can bring you success. The actual name of the book was incidental. He chose it based on how many clicks it got in a Google AdWord test. He tried many names, including dealing drugs for fun and profit, but in the end, 4-hour outperformed the competition, so he stuck with it. Tim Ferriss's gospel is actually about lifestyle design. It boils down to the old saying, do what you love and you won't work a day in your life. Number 2. Consider the context of when it was written. 2007. Feels like a million lifetimes ago by now. But actually, it was just 14 years ago. Facebook was just taking off, MySpace was still a thing, YouTube was barely global, and we still called people using our minutes. It was also a bright and hazy time when the world was on the cusp of newness. The economy had steadily climbed and people had jobs and could move around, upward or sideways, even take sabbaticals. All of this was the context that Tim Ferriss wrote the 4-hour workweek in. Just a year later was the 2008 crash, and all of that changed. And since then, jobs have been scarce. The hustle is real, and we can't imagine a world without social media as an influence. He did revise it in 2011, but the concept still has roots in a pre-2008 world. And Aluxers, stick around to find out what Tim Ferriss advises for reading the book today. Number 3. He hasn't practiced what he preached. Tim Ferriss made his fortune selling brain and muscle supplements by fully automating and drop-shipping the system. He sold a product. He also worked a horrible round-the-clock work schedule to make it successful. In fact, it was this burnout that inspired him to write the 4-hour workweek. But in the book, despite his success with dropshipping, he promotes selling ebooks as your roadmap to overnight freedom. This is pretty curious. We'll circle back around to this overnight expert stuff later on. Even now, Tim Ferriss openly admits he doesn't work just 4 hours a week. He works a minimum of 60. So if his instructions work so well, why doesn't he follow them? Let's put a pin in this one and get back to it later in the video. Number 4. Being a millionaire in the new rich sense isn't about money. The full title of the book is actually The 4-Hour Workweek: Escape 9 to 5, Live Anywhere, and Join the New Rich. According to Ferriss, being financially rich and having the ability to live like a multimillionaire are fundamentally two very different things. So what does that mean? Well, here's Ferriss with another one-liner. $1 million in the bank isn't fantasy. The fantasy is the lifestyle of the complete freedom it supposedly allows. It sounds wishy-washy, but what he's proposing is a lifestyle design. Ferriss explains that living your ideal lifestyle doesn't only rely on your monetary wealth, it relies on how, when, and where you utilize your resources. If you're able to travel when you want, you can buy the best price tickets, so traveling costs less. Or no more expensive ready-made meals when you have time to enjoy cooking from scratch. Okay, now this is starting to sound more sensible. Number 5. It's not about becoming a world-class entrepreneur. One thing's for sure is that by the end of the book, you won't have a condensed version of a business degree. It's not a hack to get to be the next Warren Buffett or Elon Musk. Reading this book won't even help you become an entrepreneur. What it does is shine a light on this type of business and show you how to run it so you have the free time to pursue work or hobbies that you're passionate about. Number 6. 4 hours doesn't include all the non-work work. Right, so about this 4-hour-a-week business, or 240 minutes if you break it down. If you think back on a typical 40-hour work week, how little of that is hard grind? You're not comparing 40 hours to 4 hours. It's more like 30 or 20 depending on how much time you waste. Tim Ferriss suggests distilling this even further by automation. In other words, outsourcing all the easy stuff, which in theory means you're still doing the work because you're paying for it to be done. It doesn't just disappear. Ferriss's method is to minimize the tedious, repetitive, and soul-sapping work from you, leaving you with the creative, inspiring, and productive stuff. This is the stuff that doesn't feel like work, the stuff you don't clock watch the whole time you're doing it. Alright, so with that said, what does happen during the 4 hours of work? Number 7. You can't automate people. In the chapter Outsourcing Life, Tim Ferriss says you should never do a task that you can delegate, never delegate a task that you can automate, and don't automate a task that you can eliminate. Strong minimalist values over here. You can now spend your time only with productive and creative work, not the humdrum of running an online business. So, now you have an army of underpaid assistants across the globe doing your work, and you've automated all the rest. So you can just sip mojitos and check your emails for 4 hours a week, right? Nope. And here's why. Number 8. The responsibility of running a business never ends. When you own a business, the reality is you don't clock out and wash your hands of responsibility until the next 4-hour work week shift. People run into snags, automated dropshipping doesn't always work, and even virtual assistants will let you down. There will be times when you still get an angry phone call in the middle of dinner or have a heart-sinking email just before a big life event, because that's the reality of any business owner no matter how much you outsource. And Aluxers, don't forget to listen to Ferris's book yourself. We've got a free download waiting for you through Audible. Head to Alux.com/freebook. Number 9. Remote work doesn't mean less work. As the 2020 COVID crisis has shown us, working from home isn't the dream it's all cracked up to be. Working remotely felt like a dream before it became everyone's reality. It isn't chilling at the beach or bar with your laptop doing a few hours of work and then being off for the day. It's often stressing to find fast enough Wi-Fi to meet a deadline or struggling to schedule a Zoom meeting. In truth, it's stressful because our attention is shared with laundry, kids, homework, the dog barking, all of the things that are a world away when you're at the office. Number 10. Not all time off needs to be completely off. Time off comes to lifestyle design once again. The idea that if you design your life better like Ferriss proposes, you won't need such a break from it. Time off can be in between, alongside, and even during a regular work day, week, or a year. Polarizing work and life is an unnecessary balancing act. You can research while on vacation, or read while on a flight, or drop into a meeting while exploring Prague. Rather, leverage your vacation to make your work more interesting, fulfilling, and what you want to be doing. Make time in the workday to do the things you love, like train for a sport or master a craft. Number 11. Not everyone hates the corporate office environment. One thing that needs to be said is that for some people, the corporate office life has many benefits, perks like travel or time off, even funding to study. The guarantee of a set income every month is quite appealing. Healthcare benefits, retirement funds, and the like all have their place, and sharing the responsibility with a team suits many people more than shouldering all of the responsibility and risk yourself when you go it alone. And this last point is the kicker. Going it alone and setting up on your own is way harder than being a small cog in a big machine. Number 12. 9 to 5 is arbitrary. Or is it? In the 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss writes, "How is it possible that all the people in the world need exactly 8 hours to accomplish their work?" Ferriss goes on to declare it an arbitrary number, and yes, it could be any number, but ironically, even the automated and outsourcing system Ferriss suggests requires some form of clocking in and out for work. The truth is that blanket statements might be headline-grabbing or make a good chapter title, but office hours do have a purpose. It would be hard to grab a bottle of wine on your way home from work if you didn't know the shop would be open or if they felt they had sold enough so they closed the shop for the day. And the same goes for many employees. Number 13. Setting up a business doesn't work for everyone. There's always the chance you can lose the job, but for the most part, it's a better option than taking a risk on a business. Ferriss and friends were successful in setting up passive income streams, but it takes a ton of luck, perfect timing, and capital before you can succeed. You could make some decent pocket money, but there aren't a ton of people making a living through passive income. Many of the tasks, like building a website or writing an ebook, sound like they'll be an evening or maybe a weekend to complete, but that is not reality. Not a decent website or ebook or a decent passive income. The book contains too many uncertain and unconfirmed timelines. All these maybes make the 9 to 5 of your job far more attractive. Number 14. Selective ignorance isn't as great as Ferriss makes it sound. Something that Ferriss strongly markets is the idea that much of our time is taken up with acquiring information that doesn't apply to us. Now, we're not talking about social media scrolls. This wasn't even a thing when the book was written in 2007. He means things like, the news. There's a low information diet, but this is malnourishment. Ferriss prefers to get the news of the day from people he interacts with. It's like an IRL echo chamber, or maybe a terrible version of a broken telephone. Whatever the motive, leaders and successful people all speak about being plugged into various sources of information regularly and consulting a variety of sources for their news. Number 15. Reading 3 books won't make you an expert. One of the biggest lies in the 4-Hour Workweek that gets the most criticism is that of becoming an expert by reading 3 books. Ferriss advises that by reading the top 3 books on any topic, joining trade organizations, giving a seminar or 2, and offering free articles to trade magazines, you'll be an expert. Yeah, not quite. What he actually means is that this approach will allow you to appear like an expert. According to Ferriss, this isn't all about being something you're not, but rather about presenting yourself in the best possible light. And for this, you have to give it to him. He was an example of his own gospel here, or at least at the time of publishing it in 2007. But now, 14 years later, he is somewhat of a guru. So, Aluxers, what did you take away from the 4-Hour Workweek? And what do you take with a grain of salt? Please share with us in the comments. Now, you stuck with us until the end. Of course, we do have a bonus for you. So, what is Tim Ferriss's advice to someone picking up the book for the first time? Now that he's over 40, he's changed a lot to the 20-something-year-old who wrote it. According to his personal blog, tim.blog, if the brash, aggressive Tim Ferriss annoys the shit out of you at points, you're not alone, and try not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. What I mean is that I'm conveying in that book principles, strategies, and approaches that I've collected from other places and other experts. Try to absorb the message without getting obsessed with the messenger. Thanks for watching, Aluxers. We're so glad you joined us today. We always appreciate your thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe.